What's up, Big 12 Nation? It is Tuesday night in America. That can mean only one thing. And it's time for another edition of your favorite Tuesday night YouTube-specific Big 12 show. That's right. It's the one. It is the only, the biggest 12 here on the Voice of College Football Network with me, your host, Clint Foster. Thank you so much for making us a part of your Tuesday night. And boy, howdy, do I have a show for y'all today. The Big 12 season is obviously underway. We got 2 weeks under our belt. A lot of takeaways. Does Colorado suck that bad? We're going to talk about that and a lot more, especially some cat-on-cat crime here, people. It's Arizona, Kansas State week. A lot to get into with this new rivalry. But first, there's some things that I need for you to do for me. And the first thing is subscribe to the channel. Come on, people, if you haven't done it yet. What is taking you so daggum long? There it is right there at Big 12 VOCFB. You got the biggest 12. You got Shane and Joey. You got so many great shows every week here on the Voice of College Football's Big 12 specific channel. You don't want to miss a minute of it, okay? And tell your friends, let's grow this sucker. Let's make this a national brand like the Big 12 is, right? We're going to expand from sea to shining sea, as it were, okay? Also, subscribe to my personal channel at Clint Foster Comedy. Got 2 new videos on there for you right now. Definitely check out the Colorado short if you haven't already. That's something that, I just threw out there on a whim, and hey, it seems like people have pretty much liked it. At Clint Foster Comedy. Follow me out on Twitter at Clint_Foster55, and there you stink and go. Also, don't forget as well to follow our Twitter account, the Voice of College Football Network's Twitter account. It's at the VOCFB on Twitter there. Join the conversation. We got polls. We got links to all the shows, all the things that you, a college football degenerate, need in your life. So without further ado, let me welcome in my first of 2 guests on tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Fitzgerald of the 24/7 Network. He reports on the Kansas State Wildcats. Tim, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening?
You missed an opportunity to say, speaking of degenerates, hey, sure. Doing great, brother. Doing great.
Fantastic, man. Well, we got another cat of a different variety joining us here in just a moment. But Tim, while we wait, I would love to hear one big takeaway from you looking back at week 2 of the college football slate. What is your big takeaway?
Well, that the Big 12 is going to be a bit chaotic. It's always hard to predict this conference, and Arizona State's proving why. They look really good, look better than, a lot of the teams up towards the top right now. So I'm anxious to really get into the conference games. And while K-State and Arizona isn't actually a conference game, being a non-conference scheduled way back when, it still will give us an interesting measurement about where these 2 teams are. And there are 2 teams that are expected to contend for the upper echelon of this conference. And we'll see what sorts out Friday night here in Manhattan.
Hey, you are absolutely right, man. This is a wide, stinking open conference. I think even more wide open than a lot of people anticipated going into this season. Because, Arizona State's a great example. You're so right. I'm going to watch that Texas State game on Thursday with great interest. I think Arizona State is just like maybe a 2 or 3 point favorite at this point on the road in San Marcos. Texas State, those are some hating ass Bobcats down there in San Marcos. We'll see what goes down. Thank you, Rye Guy, for joining us here tonight. Thank you for participating in the chat. I'll give you my big takeaway. Rye Guy's kind of teasing it here. Colorado's terrible. Right? Colorado is not a good football team. As it turns out, you can't just get a whole brand new offensive line in the transfer portal and, lack leadership in some key areas of the offense and expect for things to work. That Nebraska game was exposing in a big way. And here he is, our other guest of the evening, a cat of another variety. It's Jason Scheer, ladies and gentlemen, the 24/7 reporter for the Arizona Wildcats. Jason, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we were talking big takeaways from week 2. If you had one big takeaway, it could be Arizona related or anything else in the Big 12. What would you say was your biggest takeaway from the week 2 games?
I think watching the Big 12 games, I think Utah's the best team in the conference right now. I think they're just, and that could change any week, but right now watching all the teams in the conference, I think Utah's the one where I watched and I go, okay, this is clearly the best. And Iowa State won, but it was close for comfort. Kansas State didn't look great. Arizona looked awful. And so you go down the line, and I think Utah looked the best out of the teams, and we'll see if Cam Rising is healthy moving forward. But that was probably my biggest takeaway.
Do you think that's still the case without Cam Rising?
No, not at all. If Cam Rising's hurt, they're in deep trouble. I mean, even though his mobility is down from where it was a year ago, he's still really good, and there's going to be a big drop off between starter and backup in this case.
All right, excellent. So I want to get right to the main event, y'all. I don't want to make the people wait at all. I want to talk about some cat-on-cat violence, okay? The battle for the scratching post, as it were. Here it is, Arizona and Kansas State. Gentlemen, how do you see this game going down on Friday night?
Well, I've been watching the Arizona and Northern Arizona game. It wasn't a great performance by Arizona, but boy, offensively, they look similar. They do some things different, but the way formations they get into and some of the things they do with the running game are very similar. And I think Northern Arizona put on film right there, a good way to try to defend Arizona. But based on what I saw at Tulane, K-State might not be disciplined enough on the back end to run that kind of zone. It was pretty pitiful the way they defended at times, but they also got after the quarterback quite a bit. This is going to be a great game. This is a great matchup. Arizona has a great receiver quarterback combo that's going to give K-State all kinds of fits. And I think Avery Johnson and company on K-State's offense will do the same with Arizona.
What are your thoughts, Jason? Early takes.
Yeah, I think it's a matchup between two very similar teams. You know, I think both fan bases and people that have watched the teams or generally watch the teams would say that neither team has played up to their capabilities yet. With Arizona, it's their offense was really good the first game, defense was bad, and then the second game they switched it. And it's crazy to say, but NAU, like Tim said, had a great game plan. They bracketed T-Mac, they would show blitz and then back off the blitz. Different, confusing formations that Arizona had not seen on film yet. And it could just wind up coming down to the quarterback play. I mean, Noah Fafita on Arizona, Avery Johnson on Kansas State. Both teams have plenty of weapons. To mention discipline, Arizona struggled with discipline already in the first two games, way too many penalties. And so it just feels like one of those games that the team that makes less mistakes is going to win. And it's just a matter of which team can finally do that the third game into the year.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. And if I am in a make few mistakes contest and my opponent is Kansas State at home, brother, I'm in trouble. Right? I'm kind of giving the purple Wildcats the edge, I think, here this week. Before we get into picks for this game, if you had to assign a rivalry trophy to this game, because I mean, let's be real, this game needs a rivalry trophy eventually. What would you make this game's trophy?
I'm all in on the scratching post.
Yeah,
I love
that. Like a golden little scratching post or something. That'd be nice.
I love it. I've been trying to get something for Farmageddon for years, and nobody wants to do it.
No. Yeah, hey, anything's going to be better than what we finally settled on for TCU Baylor. I can tell you that much.
Yes, that's true.
Watercolor painted Captain America shield, right? Because obviously. Okay, let's make some picks here. How do you see this one going down? Feel free to put on the red or purple shaded glasses. This is a Homer-friendly show.
I think the spread's spot on. K-State's home advantage is probably, 3-4 points, and K-State might be a little bit better, but look, I mean, both of these teams have shown they can open the door to defeat, and they've also shown they can survive a bad performance. So I think K-State will win by 7. I haven't decided on a score yet, but I think it's going to be another one-score game. And I still can't get my mind wrapped around the stat I saw from last year that in conference play, technically this isn't conference play, but it's conference teams, 50% of the Big 12 games last year were decided by one score. That's why it's the funnest conference in college football. That's why it's an entertaining brand, and that's why it's just survival every week to try to get out of there with a win and get to the next week.
Yeah. Could say better myself. Go ahead, Jason.
Historically speaking, Arizona does not win these games. I mean, even when they've had some really good football teams, they'll go on the road against a ranked opponent, even when they're ranked, and they don't do well. The environment to me is a game changer, obviously, and in Arizona in practice is trying to mimic the environment as much as possible, but you can't really do that. Dino Babers, the offensive coordinator today, said it's one of the loudest environments that he's coached in, and when that place gets going, it really gets going. And just, to me, until I see Arizona play a complete game, it's hard to pick them to win on the road, because I think that's what you need to win on the road against a good team. You need to be able to put it all together. So I agree. I think the spread is about right. I think Arizona loses by a touchdown or so, and it's probably close for the most part, but it comes down to mistakes. I don't trust Arizona to go on the road right now and make as little mistakes as they need in order to win the game.
Yeah, we're all in agreement then. Yes, I mean, with Chris Kleiman at home, at night, Kansas State historically is very, very disciplined team, one of the most disciplined teams in the Big 12 historically. And I am much more willing to forgive an escape against Tulane on the road than I am an escape against Northern Arizona at home, right? That's what it comes down to for me. So there we go. Hey, and you know what? We may end up all being wrong. So that's the beauty of this whole thing. Let's keep it in the state of Kansas here. Our other Friday night game, and one I am also watching with great interest, UNLV, already with one Big 12 victory under their belt, travels to Kansas to face the Jayhawks. Kansas is a 7-point favorite against the Runnin' Rebels. Gentlemen, are you worried about Kansas in this game, or do you think they take it?
I think UNLV is a better team than Illinois. Now, this game is not on the home field of the other team. It's on no one's home field. It's on a soccer field in Kansas City, but there will be 20,000 KU fans there. So it's a little venue, but it's going to be loud. And hopefully for the Big 12, KU can get this done, because having them at 1-2, a team that we all expected to be pretty good, won't be a very good look for the conference. But I think UNLV is doing a good job of bolstering my push to add the Rebels to the Big 12 for the only reason that I get to go Las Vegas. I don't really care about their athletic program. I care about me going to Las Vegas.
Fair enough. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this would probably have more upset potential if Kansas had beaten Illinois. I just think that Kansas losing that game was kind of a wake-up call a little bit. It's going to be a fun game. I don't know what the over-under is for that, but they're going to score a lot of points. UNLV's offense is really dynamic. I just think, UNLV having to go to Kansas coming off a loss, they'll be focused and they should be able to control this game. They're the better team, but it could get a little crazy on a Friday night.
Yeah, well, the bowl game matchup was pointsy, right? Kansas won that one 49-36. I'm trying to look up the over-under right now because I fully expect the same here in this game. Over-under 58 and a half. So actually, I'd probably hammer the over on that.
Yeah, that feels low.
Yeah, I'd hammer the over on that one. But yeah, I think you're right, Jason. I think losing to Illinois, that was a shocker to everybody in the Big 12, I think. I did not see that game going the way that it did. So, yeah, hopefully that is a little wake-up call for the Jayhawks. They certainly have potential, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So they could go shot for shot with UNLV. Hopefully it's not a situation where they're just looking forward to basketball season after Friday night, right? Like you say, Tim, we need wins like this for the Big 12.
Yep.
As much as we all enjoy rooting against our rivals, and I certainly do. Okay, let's keep on moving. We'll talk about my Frogs next because, it's my show and I want to. TCU hosting UCF on Saturday night, 6:30. It's a blackout in the Carter. This line actually just moved. It opened at a 0.5 point favoring TCU. Now it's 1.5 points. I do think this will be a close game. I think that line is a little bit too narrow personally. But before I start talking with the purple colored glasses, give me an outsider's opinion. What do y'all think about this one?
Jason, I don't know about you, but I don't have a grasp on either team yet. I'm not sure where either one of these teams sits. I think UCF's improved, but after the last 2 seasons with TCU, I need a little bit more information on the Frogs.
You're saying that we're too inconsistent for you, Tim? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. The Frogs, like frogs, are up and down, and I can't quite figure out if they're going to be a good football team this year or not. And I'm saying with UCF. So this one will go a long ways to sorting it out. But I have a feeling the stands won't be the only thing blacked out in Fort Worth on Saturday.
This is gonna be a fun game. I'm pumped for this one. I lean towards TCU being at home and all that. I like UCF a lot. UCF, I think it's not crazy. I think most people pick UCF to be their kind of surprise team in the conference. They're super talented on offense. Jefferson is solid, maybe not off to as good of a start as I thought he would be, but this is going to be really fun. I actually like the way that TCU's played in their first couple games. But again, like it feels like another evenly matched Big 12 matchup.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I feel much better about this one being at home. If this one was in the bounce house in Orlando, then I'm a lot more concerned, right? Going down there. But I've been really pleased with TCU's defense through these first two games. I mean, Andy Avalos, to me, it has been night and day. He brings pressure off the edge, and that has made all the difference in the world. The defense has been a lot more aggressive and active. I really like our skill positions on offense, and I'm a big Josh Hoover believer. We're Josh Hoover believers on this show. It's the offensive line that has given me some concern. Specifically against Long Island, we were not running the ball as effectively as I would have liked to see us do against an FCS team. So this week's where the rubber meets the road, right? Are we going to be able to run the ball effectively, or are we going to be one-dimensional, and then that could be problematic? Okay, James, what are you thinking, James? James says 34-33 TCU. A win is a win. I would certainly accept that. Do y'all have a score prediction on either of y'all?
I think
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be high. I'd probably go TCU. I don't know. Let's go 31-28. I think they come out with it. But like you said, like if it was at the bounce house, I'd probably pick UCF.
Yeah, I would as well.
I might even go. I kind of like James's pick. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of points in a very narrow game.
Love for Tim in the chat here. Getting some real journalism lessons having these two guys fits the legend. Yeah, there we go. Only the best guests here on the Biggest 12. Come on, people. Y'all ought to know by now. Okay, let's talk. I mean, so many fun games this week, y'all. The Backyard Brawl is this week. This is like out-of-conference rivalry week. West Virginia at Pitt, 2:30 on Saturday. West Virginia is favored in this game. Pittsburgh with a 1-point victory over Cincinnati last week. I'm picking the Mountaineers in this one. I think that they are better than that Penn State score showed. It wasn't all that different than last year's Penn State. How do y'all see this one going down?
West Virginia better pull their you-know-what together. I mean, it's they just haven't looked like the team I thought they would be. And I have no idea how Pitt came back against Cincinnati. But Pitt stinks. Sorry, Cincinnati, you're
that
one
stinks
point
too, is the rumor.
Yeah, one less point didn't stink. I think West Virginia does win this. I think West Virginia is going to be a good team. They just got to gather themselves apparently at the start of the season. But I love this rivalry. It's the only reason why Pitt should ever be in the Big 12, because I don't want them in the Big 12. But these schools hate each other, only outdone by BYU and Utah. These schools despise each other, and I love it.
Yeah, it's I think West Virginia is better than they've shown, and I watched that Pitt Cincinnati game, unfortunately, and it was. I mean, Cincinnati was killing them. I still don't know how that game wound up being like it was, and so I watched Pitt and not impressed at all, and I don't think there's any shame, even though it wasn't close, in West Virginia losing to a team like Penn State. I don't think that tells us a ton about West Virginia. I think West Virginia is better than Pitt, and they go in there and win that game.
Agreed.
You think they cover the spread?
Yeah, I think they win by a touchdown.
Yeah, I can see that as well. James picking a big win here, 38-17 West Virginia. That'd be a shocker. Dishfish, though, on the opposite end of the spectrum, likes Pitt at home. West Virginia's still trying to find themselves. Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, they took care of business against Albany. You like to see that, at least. I like Pitt by a touchdown in this game. It's just this isn't one that you ever want to lose if you're West Virginia, but certainly after the way you've started this season. I mean, this is a kind of a prove it game, I feel like. And I like their ability to go out there and prove it. Speaking about Pitt being in the Big 12, it reminds me, Jason, you've been at the forefront of a lot of realignment news, I know, on Twitter. If y'all had to pick next teams coming into the Big 12, who would you really love to see?
To me, it's the three that probably your Mark wants. Like, I think the Big 12, if they somehow found a way to add a Clemson, FSU, and Miami, that would be awesome. And it's a long way off from even being possible. There's so much to go through, but I think that as much as I enjoy the Big 12, getting a national brand, I think is kind of the next step.
Can you imagine this conference having 3 schools, 3 members in Florida and 4 in Texas? Huge recruiting bases. I mean, that's something I think the conference has got to really consider. But yeah, I'd probably add maybe Louisville to that grouping just because they've almost been in the Big 12. They should have been in the Big 12 if Texas hadn't blocked it. But I'm also a fan of NC State. It's a really good athletic department. I think that's a Big 12 institution at heart. And I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't. If the ACC does come apart, I'm not sure how the Big 10 and SEC will respond. And of course, in the pecking order, they get first dibs. So we might find out who they really want.
Yeah. I think NC State and Virginia Tech especially
Yeah.
both feel like Big 12 schools.
I agree.
Right? They both have that vibe to them. What do y'all think, though, about the recent rumblings with UConn? Is that something that you're buying or selling?
It's tough because your Mark wants UConn badly.
Mhm.
Wants that market, the basketball market especially. I mean, adding UConn to Big 12 in basketball would be unreal. The problem is football just doesn't make enough. And so he hasn't been able to sell the other ADs and presidents on adding UConn because of that. And I kind of get why. Like, football, UConn does nothing for anybody. But man, as a basketball fan, especially in a school I cover, Arizona basketball, having UConn in the conference would be awesome. But I totally get why the other presidents and ADs are hesitant.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
I think UConn will eventually be in the conference unless they're invited somewhere else. You're right. Jason's right. Brett Yormark wants it, and he's probably going to get it. But the problem with adding them now, even if it's not for football, you still have to dip into your own pocket to pay them whatever their non-football revenue cut will be. And I think that's the biggest thing that the presidents and ADs are looking at right now. We don't know where this House litigation is going to land in terms of how much money is coming out of everyone's pocket. So $1 million a year in the scope of a big budget may not seem that much, but boy, when you're having to scrape another $20 million to pay your student athletes, it's enormous. So I think that the presidents and ADs probably said, just hold off until we get the new contract, where if you can get a breakout basketball contract, adding UConn makes all the sense in the world. I heard a great cut of Brett Yormark estimating that while the basketball payout now is about 10% of the contract, they believe it should be 30%, and that's how they can close part of the gap and get even more money if they really land some great basketball institutions, and UConn's about as good as it gets.
Yeah. My question, though, would be how much more realistically, I mean, the Big 12 is already, I would say, easily the best basketball conference in the nation. There's so many huge basketball brands like Arizona, like Kansas, and a lot more teams that are playing really great basketball right now. How much more realistically even if you do add a UConn, who's a back-to-back NCAA champion, how much more realistically does that raise the valuation? I mean, it feels like there's kind of a ceiling with the money that you can make from basketball. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, I think you are wrong. I think we haven't even come close to where the ceiling is. And what college athletics really needs is they need another partner to really come aggressively into the space, whether it's Turner or someone else. Because right now we got a shell game between ESPN and Fox, and NBC and CBS. Now the CW got their toes in there, but we really need someone coming in. And I suspect with Brett Yormark's ties to the NBA, it's Turner he's talking to about taking over the Big 12 basketball contract, which is interesting if they stay part of the NCAA tournament programming. It makes a lot of sense to try to move basketball onto a platform like that and really have a big stage for the best basketball conference. I think it'd be fun. Think about those games at the start of the year where you match up like North Carolina against Kansas. Well, you're going to have UConn and Arizona in the conference. I mean, it just feels like you're playing, just incredible matchups every weekend. You're going to have one game that is going to be over the top cool.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. I will say this: there's an uncomfortable amount of SMU love in the chat for my liking. No, we do not want SMU in the conference. Nobody.
No. Please stop.
Yes, cease and desist. Checking in on what College Football 25 is doing with Arizona and Kansas State. Arizona's up almost halftime. Arizona's up 14-3, whatever that's worth. Just figured I'd throw that out there.
Why is Arizona wearing orange?
Huh?
Is that orange on Arizona?
No, that's red. They're wearing red pants. But speaking of teams that College Football 25 put entirely too much stock into, Colorado, right? The team that we all love to hate and that we maybe begrudgingly root for out of conference, or maybe we don't. They're playing Colorado State this week, 7-point favorites on the road, a team that they should have lost to last year, a team that also injured Travis Hunter, possibly intentionally last year. We know Colorado's not very good, judging by their Nebraska showing and their North Dakota State showing. Can they get their first win here, gentlemen?
I think they beat Colorado. I know I'm judging it against Texas, so it's hard to do that. But I mean, Colorado State looked really bad. I do think there's a way they could make this game close, but I think Shedeur probably bounces back. They're banged up though, Colorado. This is a must-win game for Colorado. Like, I think if they somehow lose this game at Colorado State, the wheels come off on the field, off the field, all of that, and their season's done before it even starts. So I think they realize that and come up with the win, but it's probably not going to be as easy of a game as it should be.
Oh,
no, it won't be. I mean, this is everything to Colorado State. Colorado doesn't lock in. It could be some problems, but I would think Colorado's talent will just shine through in this one. But boy, they've looked crappy, and I mean really crappy. So I don't know if that thing's just going to fly apart at some point, and you'll see players quitting, and it's an absolute circus. I love how Coach Prime bragged about the ratings of his game in which his team got their asses handed to them, thinking that's like a big pose. Like, look at our ratings. Yeah, everyone loves the circus, particularly when the elephant craps in the ring. And that's what you're the elephant. You're just crapping everywhere. It's just fun to watch, man. It's a great meltdown.
I love having wordsmiths on the show. Yes. Man, well, yeah, it is a meltdown. And I tend to think, yes, the Colorado, they're just too talented. I mean, Travis Hunter in particular, just too talented. It's hard, but you know, like James is saying, Colorado State wants this one bad. He sees Colorado State winning by a little less than a touchdown. Clint as well, our resident Oregon State fan. Colorado State beats Colorado 38-24. Dishfish, how do you spell quit? Colorado. Yes. Well, let me ask you this, boys. What would it take for Deion Sanders to be ousted at Colorado? You have to wonder, because I was talking with a friend about this. He was saying, like, oh, I think Deion's going to get fired after this year. But I was like, but I feel like Colorado likes the attention. Nobody gave a crap about them in the decade and a half before this. What do you think it takes for Deion to get fired from this job?
Something horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I think criminal something. They're not going to fire him because their revenues, whether it's from selling merch or enrollment, have skyrocketed. This shows the value of college athletics to the greater institution. I mean, it has been the best piece of marketing a university's done in a long time. Even if it's a gimmick, it's been tangible evidence that it's worked. I don't think he'll be back next year, but I think he's going to say, my health won't allow me to go on because the Suns won't be there anymore. And I think he'll back away and they'll come to some kind of settlement and he'll laugh all his way to the bank. But Colorado will have benefited from it. But whoever has to pick up the pieces post Deion is, oh my goodness, what a mess that will be.
Yeah. Do you agree, Jason?
I don't think he gets fired. The only way he would get fired is the day he stops making money for the university.
Right.
Is when they would let him go. Otherwise, I think if you're Colorado and you could find a way to make 7-5 and make money in the process, they would be perfectly fine with that. Maybe the fan base wouldn't, but the administration would be perfectly fine with that because he's impacting the school in so many ways. But I agree with Fitz. I think he leaves after this year. I'm not sure how he gets it done, but I just can't see a situation where he's coaching a team without his sons and without Travis Hunter, because that's not going to be a good football team.
Yeah. You think another team hires him if he leaves? Or do you think he even looks to be hired?
I could see him looking elsewhere. I don't know what his contract is in terms of buyout. Like, if he has a losing season, does the school really want to buy him out of the contract, or how that works? My guess is it is kind of set up for the medical leave or whatever you want to call it. But I think he finds a way not to coach Colorado next year.
I agree. I think he's going to be too toxic for most university presidents or chancellors to touch. And I don't think he's NFL worthy. Let's be honest here. He's a crappy coach. When you don't know what culture is, you probably shouldn't be running a locker room, because, Coach, I got news for you. You have a culture. It's just not a good one. So congratulations. Maybe you should learn what that is, because it's impacting your team.
It's shocking to me, though, too, because Deion at Colorado is kind of what you would expect a Deion coach team to look like, but it feels 180 degrees different than Jackson State, right? I don't know if y'all watched any of that documentary about him at Jackson State, but it seemed like he was all about the kids and like building something really special at Jackson State. And it's all lights and cameras and chains and everything else at Colorado. It's completely different. I don't know. What do you think there's something there, or why the change, or am I making up that change in my mind?
I just think his kids are closer to the NFL, and now they're in the national spotlight, and he accomplished what he always wanted to accomplish. And I do applaud him for what he did at Jackson State and all that, but the goal was always to get to a school like Colorado and get as much national attention and get his kids to the NFL and Travis to the NFL. And he's one step closer to accomplishing his goals. And so it's hard for me to say, like, I don't want to say he doesn't care about winning, but he gives off the vibe where, like you mentioned, like, he starts his presser with the ratings. It's like, who cares? Like, and you lost. And so he gives off the vibe that the stats and the ratings and the earnings are more important than the W.
Yeah, it's like an influencer bragging about the number of clicks they got on their video of them getting the hell beaten out of them. I mean, what are you bragging about? It was like a Roman sacrifice. I don't understand what you're so fired up about. He just doesn't seem to have his priorities set straight. And I think what's really going to impact him is the same thing that happened last year, is he's already throwing players under the bus. There's a lot of pointing fingers, and you're just going to have even further rot within that locker room if that continues.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, Dishfish said TCU dodged a bullet by not hiring Prime. We were considering it. And I was thinking about just the other day, I cannot believe how badly I wanted Billy Napier to be TCU's coach 2 years ago. And now sitting looking at what has happened to Florida, man alive. I'm glad I'm not always the one making decisions. Let me just say that much. Okay, let's look at one more Big 12 game that really interests me. The battle for the Bayou Bucket. Rice at Houston, 7 p.m. on Saturday night. The Cougs are a 4.5-point favorite. Houston, a shockingly good showing against Oklahoma, only losing 16-12. Now, how much of this is that Houston's improving, and how much of it is that Oklahoma is terrible, actually? It's hard to know. It's only week 2. But should the Cougs be worried against Rice at home? The Owls won last year.
I don't have a grasp on Houston. They were so bad, and then they were pretty good. Look, I'm a big Willie Fritz believer, and I think he's going to get them there. I don't see this as a game they'll lose at home. I just don't. I don't see how he'll lose this game at home, but you just never know. And I didn't know it was the battle for the Bayou Bucket.
Yeah, Bayou Bucket.
Shrimp and rice in that bucket? I don't know.
Well, Houston is on Buffalo Bayou, so
okay.
I don't know why it's a bucket. Probably has something to do with the Houston flood, honestly, if I had to guess. But yeah, they play for a big bucket. Jason, what do you think?
That's fitting.
I think Houston wins this game, and it's probably their last win of the year because their schedule is pretty tough. They should win this game. Rice isn't a bad team. Houston is another one of those teams. I mean, they couldn't have looked worse in week 1. just really bad. And then Oklahoma, you're like, oh, okay, maybe they're actually not that bad. So I do think they come out with the win. I think they cover in the game, but you look at their schedule, I'm not sure they'll win another game this year.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I just got it pulled up for us here. I'll put it on the screen. It is, you're not lying, Jason. It is a tough schedule. I mean, I could see a world where Cincinnati or Baylor, maybe, but yeah, because they're not going to beat BYU and Provo. That's for darn sure. Yeah, not easy. Not an easy schedule at all. Do y'all think that they cover the spread?
Barely.
Yeah.
I think they cover, but it's going to be close.
Yeah. James doesn't think so. 28-24 Cougs. So Rice covers in that case. I mean, I think you're right. I think Houston wins. You know, Rice is a scrappy team. We all remember the immortal words of JFK. Why does Rice play Texas? Because it is hard, right? But yes, I think that the Cougs will win. And there we go. So I didn't plan for this, but I do want to talk about, we mentioned Arizona State, Texas State. I want to get y'all's take on that because I am so deeply interested in that game. I'll make a quick banner for us so we can talk about it. Arizona State going on the road on a Thursday night to Texas State, who is fresh off a blowout win over UT San Antonio. Arizona State is a 1.5 point favorite. Do y'all like the Sun Devils in this game? Do you like the Sun Devils to maybe compete for the top half of the conference this year? What do we think about these guys?
This is the definite trap game, right? Like, this is what a trap game looks like. You beat an SEC team, you're probably feeling yourself a little bit. Then you have a Thursday night game on the road in San Marcos, Texas, where they are going to be lit for this game. I mean, this is one of their biggest home games ever. Like, these are the games you're not really supposed to schedule. I actually think if ASU wins this game, it's their most impressive win of the year, even more so than Mississippi State.
I'd agree. I think Mississippi State stinks, but whoever made this schedule, goodness, I mean, their non-conference schedule has been a trap after a tough matchup. I mean, they caught Mississippi State in the down cycle, so that's great, but they're catching Texas State in an up cycle. This is a really good football team. So this will be a great measurement. I agree 100% with Jason. This is their toughest matchup so far. This non-conference schedule is the real deal for ASU. If they get out of this, they're in pretty good shape going into the Big 12.
Yeah. And I have a hard time picking them, man. I think I like Texas State at home in this one. They're going to be very fired up for it. But I do think Arizona State, I think they could surprise a lot of us in conference play. I need to pull up their schedule again to remind myself who all they're playing. I mean, do you think Arizona State makes a bowl this year?
Looks like it.
Yeah, I think they have Texas Tech and Kansas up next after these two. I think if they win this game, they make a bowl, and if they lose it, it's gonna be tough with how that schedule is.
Yeah, at Tech, which it's gonna be tough to play Tech in Lubbock, but I think Arizona State can win that game. So there's 3 for sure.
Oh my goodness!
We could see Cincinnati, maybe UCF at home, maybe BYU at home. Yeah, so there's a very realistic path.
They have Arizona, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Utah, and Kansas.
Yeah.
That's
why I think they have to win this game to make a bowl. Otherwise, I mean, you're talking 4 wins, 5 wins out of that next bunch of games. That's tough.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, golly, going to Oklahoma State and Kansas State, I think Oklahoma State's the toughest place to play in the league. I mean, that stadium is just so deeply uncomfortable to be on that sideline. They certainly did not do the Devils any favors. I'll tell you one thing, though. Texas State, G.J. Kinney is a dang good coach. He's going to have himself another job next year, and it might be in Lubbock, honestly. It might be.
That's an interesting point. This game
I'm calling that right now because I think, especially if Tech doesn't make a bowl again, we may be looking at the Joey McGuire era, despite all of its hype and pomp and circumstance, maybe ending a little premature here. Okay, this Kansas State Arizona game is coming down to the wire on on College Football 25. Let me get this banner out of the way. Let's see, 14-11. Kansas State is driving here with 1:20 left in the game. This may be the sort of game that we end up seeing too, right? Low scoring, battle to the very end. I'm very intrigued here to see if the Wildcats can pull it off. If you had to pick,
me out.
What the pants
freaks me out when you were playing it at first. I didn't realize it was the game, and then I looked and said, K-State's never worn that helmet with this uniform, and then I realized it's the game. It looks so realistic.
Yeah, they really did a lot of great work on the presentation of this game for sure. If y'all had to pick who the better quarterback is between these two, Noah Fafita or Avery Johnson, who, if you're in a drafting scenario, who would you rather have?
Am I drafting for college or the NFL? Because
for your college team, you're building a college team.
I would
rather build a college team.
Right? I think I'm probably biased, but I would choose Noah. I just think I've seen more of him, and I know what he can do. NFL would be different, but I trust Noah. I like the way that he runs the team and leadership, and I just think he's probably right now the better college quarterback.
Yeah, we need to see more from Avery. They've had him shackled up pretty good. Haven't really cut him loose. He's not been able to play his game. And we're all curious if that will come on Friday night, or if they're so concerned about their quarterback depth or lack thereof of quality depth, they might just continue to be conservative and not put him in peril very often. But he's a run-first dude. And when he gets cranking up, as Texas Tech, he scored 5 touchdowns on him last year. When he gets cranked up, he's pretty damn good. But they really haven't turned him loose in the run game. And they really haven't let him use his weapons yet. So we'll find out. I hope it's not just miserable offensive performance and play calling. I hope they just literally are holding things back for the future.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just trying not to get him hurt, I guess, for the rest of the season.
That does not look like him.
Yeah, not at all.
I don't think that dude has hair. I don't know what's going on. You got to have the hair.
Yeah. Well, these are all NIL players, right? I don't know why he doesn't have his curls. 14 seconds left. They're running clock. I really want to know how this is going to turn out. I want to know if Kansas State's going to win this game. If the computer.
By the way, Jason, these are the helmets that K-State fans wish some K-State fans wish they'd wear on Friday against your Cats helmets in script. This is the K-State script Cats helmet.
That would be awesome.
It would be awesome.
Both wore the Cats script helmets. Because Arizona hasn't had those. They've never worn them. They're brand new
uniforms. The red Cats helmet isn't on the game.
Here it is.
Kick is good. So it's went into overtime. Wow. All right. I was hoping we'd have a decision by the end of the show. But gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. It was a blast. So tell the people where they can find you, where they can read your stuff, where they can follow you. Plug away.
WildcatAuthority.com is the website. Wildcat Scoop Podcast with my wife, Shelby. Also, Clint, wanted to tell you, my good friend, Nancy Borg, I wanted to shout her out because she told me about you with the pandemic skit that you did.
Oh,
Pandemic. So she loved it. So shout out to her also, who's definitely watching this.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Dial up 24/7 sports and go to your Big 12 school. That's my advice. Go find whatever school you're interested in. We're at GoPowerCat.com. You can find us on YouTube too. We do a lot of YouTube stuff. In fact, I'm heading over to our channel to record a podcast for midnight release.
Yes, 24/7 does amazing work. Shout out Jeremy Clark, TCU's longtime 24/7 guy, one of the best in the business, friend of the show, who we haven't had on the show yet. Oh my God, how have we not had him on the show? We got to get Jeremy on the show. But yes, HornFrogBlitz.com, TCU fans, if you're not already following them there. And, subscribe to the show. It's been running across the bottom of the screen there the whole time at Big 12 VOCFB. Let's grow this thing. Knock on doors. Ride your bicycle if you're in Provo. Shout it from the mountaintops. Everybody needs to know and be a part of the Biggest 12. Follow me on Twitter and on my personal YouTube channel that is at Clint Foster Comedy, where you will see those sketches, and at Clint_Foster55. Contrary to popular belief, I do not run every account in the TCU burner sphere. It's just that one. So if you want to hear my thoughts, you're going to have to go to that one. Thank you so much again for joining us on this fine Tuesday night. I love y'all. I hope your team wins, and go Big 12. See you next time.